back to the Fox Robbins Business Show. Come on in and sit a while. We're going to talk about small business. And what are we going to talk about? Everything.
Anything you want to know.
Anything you want to know.
Well, what do we know?
And it doesn't matter if you are simply only thinking about starting up a business, or you've taken the grand step and you're into the startup phase, and maybe that's going well, maybe it's not. Or you actually have a company that's up and running. And maybe it's going well and maybe it's not.
But even if it's going well,
maybe it's going well, you want to make changes.
You want to make it go weller.
You want to make it go weller.
Gooder.
Anyway, that's Fox Robbins Business Show. Anything and everything there is to know, and it's there's no horizon. It's just boundless.
It is.
The things we talk about affecting small business, which means that it's not that simple.
It's pretty complex, actually.
And I'm co-host of the show, Bill Fox, but what you have to do is you got to pay attention to the other co-host. Why? Because this guy is positively enthralling, and he is spellbinding and captivating. He is Coach Robbins.
That's me, Mr. Bill.
Hey, Coach.
Captivating.
Nice to have you on the show.
Well, it's nice to be here. We're about to, closing on a 200th time?
Yeah, coming to closing in.
Hard to believe.
Show. Yeah. And, well, you've been very, very steadfast, I might say.
Yeah, we have been. We've got over 10 years now, right?
Yeah. You don't look a minute older either.
I looked old then.
We're going to talk about, Coach and I are going to talk about how to pitch to investors. How to pitch, that is to give your sales pitch to potential investors.
Yeah.
And if you've been through that, you know that can be a harrowing experience. If you haven't been through it, welcome to the big leagues.
That can be a harrowing experience.
This is Cliff Robbins himself, MSBDC, Mass Small Business Development, and also NTB Associates. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to follow the track on their findings about how to sales pitch investors.
Exactly.
Okay, and Coach, somehow you have a facility, to aim at the crux of the matter, which would be any investor. Now, we're not talking about a banker. We're talking about an investor.
No, private investor.
And that would be someone who was willing to absorb risk.
A rich person who can afford to absorb some risk.
Who can write a check, and if the money provides a return, great. If it doesn't, not so great, but we'll get the next one.
And it won't change their life.
Investor primary interest. And what is that? Let's talk to me about the investor's primary interest.
Well, the investor, as I've already said, is probably a wealthy person, wealthy lady, wealthy gentleman, and their primary interest is really very simple. They want to make a lot of money. You see, they're wealthy to start with, and more than likely, we have spoken about when you do a startup, you can get some basic funding. I mean, people start a business, entrepreneurs start a business, not having everything they need, including in the financial arena, but they do need to have some money to get started. I mean, you can start a business for 30 grand, 50 grand, a reasonably small number. It doesn't take a ton of money. And we've often mentioned the 4 F's, the founder.
What, four what?
4 F's.
4 F's.
Yes, I'll be very careful.
You're not talking about me, though.
No.
Okay.
Not Fox.
All right.
No, unless you want to start taking some risks. All right. The founder, naturally the founder is expected to put in some money to show that they're confident that this thing is a good idea.
What's that, the well-worn expression is skin in the game.
Skin in the game. Everybody wants to know, the lenders and the investors want to know they've got some skin in the game. Yeah. So you got the founder, one of the F's, friends who might like the idea and want to put some money in, family, of course, you know, mom and dad and brothers and sisters.
Go get your relatives.
Go get your relatives and have them put in some money and invest some money, friends and neighbors. So you get founders, friends, family, and of course, fools who put money in. And investors are major investors are not fools. They look diligently at the potential return. Now, the fact is, they are taking a risk in putting money into any business, especially in the nascent or the early stage of a business, because there is such a high failure rate on these businesses. And investors do lose on some of their investments, which is even more reason why when they put $100,000 into a business, they really do need a good return on it to offset some of the ones they put money in and really didn't give a good return or even lost the whole deal.
Right. But they don't as much want to hear about the details, the nitty-gritty details of your technology or your business. They want to talk about
ROI, return on investment. How big's the market? We'll get into all these things. How big's the market?
And that's skin in the game, you know. I mean, you have to ask yourself if you want to start the business, you don't have any money, and the investor says, well, are you putting any money into this? And you say, oh no, I'm going to do all this with your money. I mean, I put it that way to you. I mean, now you're laughing because
they'll laugh too. Right?
But in a serious meeting, you know, the investors want to hear that you've got a pound of flesh, a pound of your flesh.
Exactly. And that shows that you're confident and you've done the due diligence up front to really do the research to find out, is this a viable business potential?
Right. So, and but the key elements, the investor is sitting there, and the key elements of primary interest to that investor would be
return,
market size.
Market size. How big is the market? I mean, a lot of people will say to me, gee, I want to start a restaurant, can I get an angel investor? Well, if you know somebody who really wants to back yours, but you know, the potential for, you know, a breakfast and lunch restaurant isn't exactly enormous. They want to see that it's a multi-billion-dollar industry that you can go and get a major piece of.
They want a hamburger shop called McDonald's.
They want to take a hamburger chain like McDonald's or Starbucks, you know, or whatever, right? Absolutely. They want scale. They want scalability of a business. It's got to be something major. They're going to put $500,000 in your business. It's got to be a major market.
And the management team?
Well, I've said it about 100,000 times probably that angel investors bet on a Class A team, even if it's a Class B idea, long before they'll bet on a Class B team with a Class A idea, because they know darn right well that a Class A team is going to take a Class B idea and work on it and have proven in the past that they're able to pivot and do the things they have to do to make this thing a success. But the basic premise looks good, and you got a Class A team leading it, you got a much better chance of success. And angel investors always look at the team. I used to read business plans for the Bay Angels group when they were around for about 10 years. And I would read the executive summary and I'd say, I see the problem they're addressing, I see who's addressing it, I see they're addressing it in a better way, hopefully. They need a certain amount of money, it's a very big business industry. I immediately, if I'm interested, if it catches my attention and interest, I go to the resumes. I want to see, who are these mass people? Have they done this before? What is their experience? You know, I want to see that they are a Class A team before I would say to the angel group, yeah, take a look at this one.
And this area, this primary interest that we're talking about would include uniqueness.
Well, it's got to be a unique selling proposition. That's marketing 101. We've talked about that for a decade, right?
You don't want a Me Too, you know.
Well, a Me Too business isn't going to have provide any value to a market that's going to make people who are already getting this need met by somebody else give you their money instead. Well, if you're cheaper, but you can't make any money being cheaper, right? The only person that wins when it's a pricing contest is the consumer.
Right. And along with a unique idea would be what's called, Coach, is something called differentiation.
Well, a unique idea in fact, is a different product, a different way of solving a problem, a different way of providing value. We're always talking about providing value to the marketplace. And how are you different from your competitor or competitors? And is that, there's more to it, is that really important to the customer? Is this is something that the customer feels they're willing to shift from buying from this company and come to your new company because you're providing a different value, you're doing something the marketplace has not been given, and you've got a unique selling proposition, you've got a competitive advantage. Those three terms really go together, you know? Unique selling proposition, competitive advantage.
Okay, and the
Differentiation, that was the third word.
another one on this list of primary interest by the investors would be something called IP protection.
Yeah.
What's that?
Intellectual property. I mean, I used to have people say to me, will your angel or angel groups sign a non-compete, non-disclosure? And I say, no, they won't. They expect that you've already taken care of the IP, be it a patent, be it some secret sauce. They expect that you're coming to them and you've already got the patent process started, and that it is something that's patentable, for instance, in the case of a product, right? They want to make sure, because they don't want to put their money into your business and then have some giant company say, oh, we can do that, we can do it better, and just squash your company, and then they lose their investment. So they want to be sure that you've done something, whatever you can do, to protect your intellectual property.
Now, one thing, Coach, I think I've talked to you about this before, way in my background has taught me that patent protection can be overrated.
Yes, it can be.
I mean, you say,
definitely.
oh, I got a patent, that's it, I'm all set. Well, no, not necessarily.
90+% of patents never get commercialized. A lot of them are just patent sitting too, hoping somebody wants to start making this thing, but they never get commercialized. Just because you have a patent doesn't mean the market's going to say, wow, that's great, let me give you some money for that. Mm-hmm. No, doesn't work that way.
And so, but even having a patent doesn't mean that, well, nasty things can still happen to you. Number one, you have nasty competitors say, I don't care if you have a patent, we're going to copy it, sue me.
That's right, and you know what? You know who's responsible?
You got a patent? I don't care if you got a patent.
You know who's responsible to protect your patent? The government doesn't do a darn thing. They give you the patent, and now it's up to you to hire the lawyer to fight.
It's a piece of paper.
Just a piece of paper, but it does give you the right to spend a fortune, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars, to stop other people from infringing on your patent rights. But you've got to do it.
I never forget that story about the guy. I bet you got plenty of stories. I always remember the one about the guy who invented the
intermittent wiper.
The wiper blade on automobiles.
The intermittent wiper.
Intermittent.
Yep. He invented. He took a couple of different diodes and things, and then he designed and patented.
Yeah.
And
as far as I know, the automobile company just drove right over that guy.
Just drove right over him. He stuck with it, and there was a TV show or a movie about him, and he did stick with it.
My recollection is that after it took him like 18 years.
Yes.
And he's talking about stick with it, 18 years.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars spent in legal fees.
He did finally get a favorable judgment.
It destroyed his marriage, the poor guy, but he stuck with it. He stuck with the thing all the way. But yeah, I mean, I have a client who has a patent on something, and he's selling, and major companies are basically stomping all over his patent.
Yeah. And
to date, he had spent something like $350,000 in legal fees fighting with them.
Right.
The big company just says, hey, go ahead, fight us. We got lawyers on retainer. In the meantime, we'll make millions of dollars.
Let's get back to, this is you made a comment earlier, so I'm going to take you back about the type of investors we're talking about. Mm-hmm. I want you to hone in on that a little bit more, if you would. Starting, I want you to repeat it because everybody needs to get it fixed in their brain. The 4 F's. Give us the 4 F's again.
The founders, friends, family, and fools. All right? And believe me, angel investors are not fools. They do this professionally, they do it to make money, and they know what they're doing.
Speaking of, you mentioned in passing the word angel. That's the next category. In fact, I mean, more specifically, tell us what's angel? Angel?
Well, an angel investor is somebody who is fairly wealthy. As a matter of fact, I think the SEC has a rule that they've got to have a net worth of $1 million or $200,000 a year income to be a legitimate investor. In other words, they have to be fairly wealthy people. And angel investors invest in businesses, and they do take a risk. They invest in businesses in the fairly early stage of the business. You may have a patent, you may have a product, a prototype product, and you start to go to angel groups because you need $400,000 to get this product made and introduced to the market, or you might even have a little sales traction, proof of concept, whatever you've got. But now you are working for your company as what I call the CLC. You're the founder, you're the CEO, you might be chief operations, you might be in charge of marketing because you're a solopreneur, or you might have a small team of people. But what your primary job when you've got to raise money is to become the CLC. And I'm sure you're dying to know what CLC stands for. Constantly looking for cash. Okay, so you're going to be going from angel group to angel group, and it takes a lot of work, and it takes you got to kiss a lot of frogs before you find your prince.
And if you're starting a company, Coach, don't tell me you don't like selling.
That's the number one skill.
Don't waste my time and say, well, I don't like selling. I just like to fix mufflers or make cupcakes.
So I just know how to do that. I'm no good at selling. And my advice is always to get a job, because somebody's got to do it. When you start, you're selling something. You're selling your idea to other people to come on board, technology people, marketing people to come into the company. You're selling the company to angel investors, which is what we're talking about. You're selling the idea to banks so you can borrow some money. You're selling the idea. Remember, you're selling the idea to customers too. You got to be good at sales. Jim Koch said the number one skill. Jim Koch is the founder of Boston Beer. And a lot of people don't even know what Boston Beer Incorporated is. It's beer, yeah, but do you know what brand?
It's that
Sam Adams, very good. A lot of people don't even know Sam Adams is made by Boston Beer Incorporated.
And Bavarian hops.
Exactly. But Jim,
they say,
he's a billionaire now and very bright guy. I mean, obviously a JD MBA from Harvard, and he was an 8th generation brewmeister. But he's often said the most important skill, he learned a skill not at Harvard, he learned how to sell. That's what he had to learn how to do to make his company successful, particularly when he was the only one employee of the company.
Speaking of angels, on your list, there could be somebody who was a single single angel, but there can be angel groups. You've mentioned both.
Oh yeah.
But it's also money on your list. Money-wise, a single angel investor might be looking at 10,000 up to 2 million.
Sure. Yeah. I mean a single angel investor might write you a check for $100,000, getting in a very early stage, wanting a bigger piece of the company, want more shares of the company, because they are taking a risk. The earlier you get in, the riskier it is, naturally, because depending upon where you are in the sales cycle and the development of the company, it's a very early stage investment, so they want a bigger piece. Then you have groups of angels. Groups of angels who pool their funds, like Bay Angels, like Common Angels, and these are groups of wealthy people who are members of a group of angel investors.
That could be good for, say, now 50 to 15 million.
Exactly. It could be $50,000, $1 million, $2 million.
Could be $500,000, $2 million.
Sure. It could be done. It could be done in tranches, as we say. The angel group might say to you, okay, great, we'll give you the first $100,000 to get the prototypes done. And once you've got the prototypes done, and we'll give you the next $250,000 to get some real products into the market, and you get some sales traction. And if your sales hit a certain figure, then we'll kick in the $1 million to start scaling the business. They want to see the sales hockey stick, as we say.
Now, we have on public TV. We have this thing called Shark Tank. It's a popular show. It's fun. It's a fun.
Yeah, they're angel
show.
investors.
Now, are those individual angels, or is that an angel group?
Those are individual angels.
Those are individuals.
Well, they may get together and do a deal, but they're individuals. Yes. They're
Yeah.
not a member of an angel. Well, they might be, but that's not part of the show.
Well, it's because you could have one of them
Oh.
agree to put up money, the others don't.
Well, that's what you see happens when you
Yeah.
watch the show. Mark Cuban, who's a very bright individual, he may just say, and of course he's the richest of all of them, he's worth billions of dollars. He might just say, look, I'll give you $500,000. I want to be the only investor in this business. You might have Mr. Wonderful and Barbara trying to get a piece of the deal, and
Yeah.
Mark says, no, I want to be in it alone. Yeah. I mean, they could get together and do a deal, which they do, or any one of them might do the deal. Sure.
Anyway,
but they are angel investors.
But
it's
fun to watch that, because we didn't have that 5 or 10 years ago. I mean, it's on
Yeah, it's been
TV.
on probably about 5 years.
You can watch those poor trembling people come up in front of that group and try to make this sales presentation.
I've had a lot of clients, well, not a lot, I've had quite a few clients go on that show, have been on the TV show. And a couple of them did not get an offer. A couple of them did get an offer, but when the due diligence was done, not on screen, the deals didn't go through for various reasons. Because just because they say, I'll do the deal with you, I'll give you $250,000, I want 40% of the business, looks great on TV, but after the TV show runs,
what you don't see
is, and like I say, sometimes for legitimate reasons, they'll go and they'll look at this company, they'll do what's called due diligence and say, no, we want to walk away from this, we don't want to do this deal.
Now there's a whole other category, and these are risk investors, and the name gets bandied around a lot, gets kicked around quite a bit. It's called venture capital, VC or venture capital coach. What about that?
Okay, Mr. Wonderful there, bright guy too, they're all bright people. He calls himself a venture capitalist. In fact, I differ, he is not a venture capitalist. He is an angel investor.
Yes.
Because angels will do in early stage when sales are just kind of going along like this, before they go like that. VCs are big money. Venture capitalist groups are big money. Now you're talking 10 million, 20 million, 30, 50 million. They'll put in the big money when they see that not only is there proof of concept, there's great sales traction, and they're pretty sure that their company is at what we call an inflection point, and it's going to take off. It's going to hockey stick because it's going to reach a mass market now, but you need $10, $20 million to invest to capture that market. That's where venture capitalist groups, that's the big money that comes into a company. But they're not in the early stage.
That's not the $50,000.
No, they're not early stage investors. Right. They take less risk because they're going to put up bigger money. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to selling tools. You need some tools in your toolkit here.
I always do. We see, this is why in early they said, I'm no good with selling. Good, go home.
Required selling tools on your list is, one sentence, 1 minute, 5 minute, 30 minute. They're different. Those are different tools.
Yes.
Well, tell us.
Those are pitches. Those are elevator pitches. Not only do you need different length, an elevator pitch could be 30 seconds, could be a minute, no more. An elevator pitch is literally something that you could step on an elevator, meet somebody, and depending who it is, maybe even change the elevator pitch. But let's say you step on an elevator and there's an angel investor there, and you tell them who you are and name of your company, and
he says, he says or she says,
what do you do?
What do you do?
Right, and they
but you better be like this.
You got 30 seconds to give them a certain litany, which we'll go through later, of what your company's about, what problem you're solving, how big the market is, what your idea, why it's better and different, and what they should do. Give me a call, I'll be glad to discuss it with you. That would be a 30-second or a 1-minute elevator pitch. Basically what the folks are doing on Shark Tank is kind of an extended elevator pitch.
That would be, you had the 1 sentence, 1 minute, 5 minute.
That's what
30
they're
minute,
doing.
that would be a 5 minute.
A 5-minute presentation, it's more than an elevator pitch once you consider 5 minutes. That's what they're doing on Shark Tank.
Right.
They've got 5 minutes to convince those angels that with their money, they can take this company to a much higher level. That's what they're there to do. But you'll notice that those angels always want to know, what have your sales been for the last 2 years, 3 years?
Right.
You know, they always want to know, what kind of sales traction have you gotten without my money?
Yeah.
And what kind of sales traction do you think you're going to get with my money, and how are you going to do that?
Right.
And what's this money going to be used for?
Okay, and then 30 minutes, a 30-minute presentation would be pretty
That's a long,
elaborate.
that's a very long presentation, but when Guy Kawasaki, who was a consultant, famous, wrote 10-20-30 rule.
Yeah.
That's 10 slides, PowerPoint slides. This is when you're making a PowerPoint presentation.
10 PowerPoints.
10 PowerPoint slides,
Right.
20-minute presentation, 2 minutes a slide on average,
Yeah.
and a 30-point font minimum. He doesn't want you to put, you know, a .02 Beelzebub font,
Yeah.
pink on green, and the entire financial potential of the company over the next 40 years. 10, 20, 30 presentation is what you would make to an angel group. You got 20 minutes to make your presentation, you got 10 slides to give it to them, big letters, big numbers, just the highlights, and then hopefully there's a lot of questions after your presentation, because that means you've generated some interest in the people sitting in the audience that you're trying to get money from.
And I also would highly recommend one of your favorite all-time instructions. So you've got several, but
I got a lot of that.
in your toolkit, you know. But one of them that you love is you're making a 30-minute presentation. Let's say what you want to have in mind is A, tell them what you're going to tell them.
Yep.
B, tell them.
Tell them.
C, tell them what you told them.
Right.
Right?
So it sticks. It's a good way. I teach that way too. All of my power presentations have an agenda on the next slide after I introduce the company and who I am and what have you. The next one is the agenda. Here's what we're going to cover.
Yeah.
And then I go ahead and cover it. And then the last slide, which includes a big question mark at the end of these points, is I put the agenda and tell them what I told them. Okay? And hopefully we get some dialogue going after that presentation, and I got some questions coming up. And the idea is, when you make a presentation with an angel group, you're looking to get them to call you back.
We're going to do, folks, we're going to do 2 episodes back to back, one after the other on this, because we're not quite finished. We've got some more important points to make, and we're going to come back with an episode 2. All of our episodes are uploaded to YouTube, so they're conveniently available anytime that's good for you. And so you go to YouTube. In the search box, just type in one single word, Fox Robbins, FOXROBBINS, and click, and there's a library of shows, and you just pick and choose shows that are of current or most interest to you. And we will do episode 2 of this selling pitch to raise money, and we will see you in episode 2 next time.